time once again for my annual challenge where I try to read a book a day in February because it's the shortest month of the year. I do occasionally like to challenge myself. So every February I try to read 28 books in 28 days. Most of the time it goes okay. Sometimes I fail dramatically and other times I exceed my own expectations. So who knows how it's going to go this year. I think the way for me to succeed in this challenge is to mood read, basically. So if I'm planning on doing that, you may be wondering why I am creating a TBR video. It's because I do actually have some books in mind that I would like to at least try to read. And in some of my goals and reading related videos back in December during Bookmas, I said that I wanted to prioritise some books. And I don't really want to fall behind on those goals just because I'm taking on an additional challenge. So I've picked out a ton of books that I could be interested in reading. I think the vibe for the month is going to be, like I said, mood reading. I'd also really like to read some romance books, mainly for Valentine's Day, but I feel like I'm in the romance kind of mood, typical romance or romantasy. And also I want to make some progress in some of the graphic novel series that I'm currently reading. I've picked out some of the shortest books from my huge physical TBR because I'm thinking that I can whiz through them, have a really good time, and then maybe also make some progress in my physical TBR because that is always the goal. Let's just get started. Let me show you the books I'm planning on reading in February. The first one I've picked out is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I also have A Fate Inked in Blood arriving at the library for me. It's not in yet, so I don't know if I'm going to read it in February or March, but I do have The Bridge Kingdom, this stunning new edition of it that I got imported from the US. I think it's beautiful. I'm going to be collecting this series in these editions if I like this first one. This is the series that she released. I don't think she released it first, but she released it before A Fate Inked in Blood, obviously. Oh my god, I've just noticed it's got a full colour map. Okay. Stunning, stunning. I better love this series. All I know about this one is it's a romantasy, I think, about a warrior princess called Lara. And I think she's trying to take down the king. I don't really know anything else about it. I think I've heard that the romance in this is very, very good, so that's promising. And I've heard really good things about the author's writing, so I'm looking forward to reading this. And I do genuinely think that I will love this one. I'm predicting 4 stars. It could be 5. I'm not against it. Another quite short romantasy book that I got very recently, it only arrived today, is Starlight's Heir. So this is a brand new release. It shows up horribly on camera and in person it's not that impressive either. It's a real shame because this cover is actually stunning, but I'll put the cover on here of what it looks like online. And I'm going to be honest, I partly bought this book because of the cover. So I'm a bit disappointed that it doesn't look as good in real life, but to be fair, it does also sound quite good. So this is about a main character called Soraya, and she is a bladesmith, and I believe she is summoned by the prince to woo him or something. I don't know if there's like some sort of competition here. So it's basically about her going to the royal court, and there's a bit of political fantasy stuff going on as well. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. It's very, very short. It's just over 300 pages, so I shouldn't have any problems reading this one. I've also picked out Evocation by S.T. Gibson. I'm not convinced I'm gonna love this one. So this one is an urban fantasy, and I love urban fantasy, but I've not heard the best things about this book. And I feel like S.T. Gibson's books are very hit and miss for people. Everyone loved A Dowry of Blood, but since then people haven't been too keen on her stuff. So I'm very intrigued to see if I like this one. I did go to an event last year where the author was talking about this book and she really sold it to me. So she did a great job with that. And I do really like this edition as well. I don't know if this is like a special edition or if this is just the UK cover, but because I like urban fantasy and I know that I do like S.T. Gibson's writing for the most part, I do think I'm going to like it. And again, it's very short, so I should be able to whiz through it. Another couple of very short books I've got are Turtle Moon by Hannah Gold. This is a middle grade contemporary book. This one is set in Costa Rica and it's about turtle conservation. So Hannah Gold always tackles some sort of conservation, climate fiction type stuff in her books. They always have really beautiful illustrations, beautiful messages in them as well, so I'm looking forward to reading this. I picked up another couple of tiny books from my TBR. The first one is Of Women and Salt. This one is set in Cuba and it's told in 3 timelines. It's kind of generational fiction. It starts off in the 1800s and then moves on to the present day, I think like 2016 or something. I started this, I read I think 20 pages and I just didn't carry on. I don't really know why. It's literally been sat at my bedside table for the past year or so, but I was really enjoying the writing style and the topic as well. I've not read anything set in Cuba, I don't think, so I would really like to pick this one up if I'm in the mood for a historical generational book. I've also picked out Foundation. This one is a sci-fi classic. I actually have not been spoiled for this. I have no idea what it's about. I know that it's been turned into a TV show and it says here that it's Apple TV, and I absolutely love Apple TV's programs. They are doing some really good sci-fi stuff at the moment. Sorry, there's a sticker on it, so I'm just trying to get it off. I'm getting a bit distracted. Yeah, Apple TV do some really good shows, so I'd really like to watch the TV show for this. but I haven't read the book. So I need to read the book first. It's just over 200 pages. I don't get the impression it's very difficult to read for a classic, so I'm going to enjoy getting into this one, I think. And I think this is the first part of a series. I don't know how many books are in that series. Let me see if I can find out. Oh, a lot. Okay, yeah, it's a whole saga. So 1, 2, 3. There are 7 books in this series, and I assume they're all like kind of the same length. While I will only be reading the first book in February, hopefully, I might get my hands on the others and marathon the series if I feel like it at some point. I've also picked out ACOTAR. This will be a reread for me, and so I'm thinking it's going to be really quick. I started rereading it last year and I got about 70 pages in, and I don't think I'm going to restart it because I still remember what happened in those first 70 pages. And when I first read it, I really did not like this book. I gave it 1 star. But I have been promised that the rest of the series gets good and you get really connected to the characters, and it's not actually as bad as the first book makes it out to be. So I am choosing to trust my friend when she says this and give this series another go. And that does mean I'm gonna have to reread this because I can't remember much about the like lore of the world. I remember the beginning, I remember Feyre, I remember Tamlin, but I don't really remember anything about, I think there was a queen or something at some sort of court, so I don't really know. And I remember Rhysand showed up. I know obviously he's a massive deal in the rest of the series. So yeah, I don't remember loads. I'm gonna reread it. It should be a really quick reread, I think. I don't need to recap it either because I've already done that on my website, so I can like fully concentrate if I want to. I've got a couple of graphic novel books that I'm planning on reading. I've reserved more from the library as well, so I just need to go and pick those up. So one of the ones that I've reserved is Garlic and the Witch, and another one is On a Sunbeam, and I've reserved a few more as well because I didn't want to buy them outright. But the ones that I already own are The Old Guard. This one is what the Netflix film was based on, or this is based on the Netflix film. I'm not entirely sure, but it's full colour, absolutely stunning. I really enjoyed the Netflix film as well, so I got my hands on this when it was on sale. I think there are 2 or 3 volumes of this out now, and I don't think they're available in my library, so if I enjoy this, I'll have to buy the rest of the series. Then I also picked up the Montague twins, and this is the first one in this series. I think there are 2 so far. I think I discovered this when I was randomly watching one of Jesse the Reader's videos. I haven't watched his videos in years since he first started Booktube, but I think recently he started doing more reading vlogs and challenge videos. And so I watched a couple of them and I saw this on there. And I think it's just a paranormal series about 2 brothers who are discovering like paranormal secrets and stuff. So I thought this one sounded really good and he really sold it to me. So I picked this one up and I might pick up the others in February as well, or the other one. I think there's only one, as I said. And then I've picked out some romance books. Actually, I don't know if this one is a romance book. No, I'll show you the romance books in a second. I've also picked up Cassandra in Reverse. I found this one in a charity shop and it's been on my wish list for ages. And this is about a woman called Cassandra who has never really fitted in. She's having a kind of terrible time of it, and then I think she discovers that she can go back in time. I don't know if it's like voluntarily or if it just happens to her, and I really enjoy time travel, sliding doors, kind of parallel universe stuff, so I picked this one up when I found it in the charity shop for £2.50, and I'm gonna give it a go. And then actually onto the romance books this time. I think they're romance books. Let me just show them to you. The first one I picked up is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This one, if I'm to do a reading vlog on romance books, this one will be in it. This is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series, and I know nothing about it. Is it about cowboys? It might be. I don't know if I'm going to like this. I've heard good things, and I've heard a lot of people, booktubers who have come over from Book Talk, have really enjoyed this series. I do love a good romance book. I'm just really picky about them, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna love it. I just saw it in the library and I was like, I'm gonna give it a go in February and see how I do. It should be a really quick read as well. I also picked up the X Talk. I already own this one. I've got a few of Rachel Lynn Solomon's books, and if I like this, I'll read a couple more, I think. This one is about radio hosts falling for each other, and it's apparently really, really good. A couple of people told me that it's one of their favourite books, so looking forward to reading this one. And then this one, I'm not sure whether it's a romance book or not, but it's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So I know that it's like cozy fantasy, but I don't know if there's like a romance in it, and I'm fairly sure I heard there was. So this is the first book in the series, and I got this a couple of weeks ago from the library because I need to recap it for my website recaptains. I've also reserved the second book. That hasn't reached my library yet, but it should do soon, I think, maybe today. I'm planning on reading this ASAP, so I may have already read it by the time you're watching this video. If I have, I will be reading the second book in February because I need to get a move on and recap this series because a lot of people have requested it. I'm a bit conflicted about whether I'm going to like this one because I'm a bit picky about books with fairies in. They're not my favourite kind of magical creature, and I really didn't like A Natural History of Dragons. I thought that was really boring. So if this has similar vibes to that, I'm not sure I'll love it, but at the same time, I do really like cozy fantasy, It's something that I discovered in the past like 2 years or so. I'm hoping I will really enjoy this one. I'm just really quite worried that I won't. And then I still have to read the second book in theory in order to recap it. So we'll see. Hopefully I do like it. And then the last book that I wanted to mention for my romance category is Best Hex Ever. Again, I saw this one in the library. I had already heard of the release, but it was just sort of sat on the shelf, and I decided that I wanted something a bit different for my romance vlog if I do one, or my romance week if I'm just, you know, reading. And I really like witch books, which is something else that I discovered last year. So I thought I would give this one a go and see how it is. I've also requested a few other books from the library, so I'm just going to tell you about those quickly. One book that I haven't requested but I am going to read is The Favourites. I have that one from NetGalley, and I might get the audiobook because I've heard it's told partly in interviews. So it's kind of giving like Daisy Jones and the Six vibes. And I think that's like a literary drama with a bit of romance in it. So I'm looking forward to that. That one does sound very good and it's getting a lot of hype. I was also thinking potentially about doing a new releases vlog for every single month and just reading like a handful or less of new releases and telling you about them. So yeah, maybe I'll do that if I can find the time. If I'm trying to read 28 books in 28 days, that video probably won't be up until the end of February for the January new releases. I've also picked up the Baby Dragon Cafe, which is another cozy fantasy book, and I've requested the Teller of Small Fortunes, which should also arrive very soon. So I've got lots of stuff coming in from the library. I've got lots of reading plans, obviously. I am really hyped to try this challenge. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? Would you like to join me for the challenge? That would be really fun. I've never had anyone join me before. I think that would be quite interesting. Not that it's a race or anything, but I would be interested to see if other people are able to complete this challenge, and also like whether or not you like doing a challenge like this. Do you find it too stressful, or do you find it quite fun? Because I just approach it as a bit of fun, and if I don't get to 28 books, I don't really mind. I just like filling in my spreadsheet and ticking off the books and just having a really good time and reading some really fast-paced stuff as well, because I feel like I'm never picking out like a 500-page book to read in a day. I'm always picking out shorter stuff like this that I can blast through, and I don't necessarily need to read one every single day. What I can do is, for example, read like a handful of graphic novels in one day and then have a few days off if I'm not really feeling the book, or I could then spread out a book over 2 or 3 days instead. And I know there's this whole like debate about whether fast readers really absorb the books, if they're really taking the time to enjoy them, but to be honest, just let people do what they want. If people want to skim read and not absorb the story, then fine. If people feel like they are absorbing the story that way, then fair enough. And books don't have to be deep. Like, I don't need to write an essay about any of these books that I'm reading. I just need to enjoy them in the moment for me to have a good time. And I think that's the most important thing. So, as I said, let me know what you think in the comments below about any of these books. If you've got any graphic novel recommendations for me, then please tell me, because I would love to get my hands on some more. Because February is always my graphic novel month and I love it. And with that, I am gonna go and start reading now. So I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.